Notice how fast you can sense someone's mood shift in a room before they've said a word, before anything's technically wrong, and notice what happens next. Some part of you immediately starts adjusting your tone, your energy, your next sentence, like you're reading a temperature nobody else can see and quietly correcting it before anyone even notices you change. You've been doing this for so long that it feels like personality. It is not. It became your normal before it ever became your choice. If you want to understand where that reflex actually came from, consider subscribing. Now, let's find where it started. Think about how much time you've spent rereading a text message before sending it, adjusting a single word because it might land wrong, might sound too cold, might accidentally start something you'd then have to spend the rest of the day fixing. Think about walking into a room and immediately knowing, without anyone saying anything, that you need to be careful. Not because of what's happening, because of what might happen if you're not careful enough, fast enough, aware enough. Think about the specific exhaustion of trying to manage someone else's mood, cracking a joke at the right moment, softening a topic before it turns, changing the subject just in time, as if their emotional weather were something you were personally responsible for keeping mild. Think about the guilt that shows up after saying no to something, not regret about the thing itself. Guilt about the gap it might leave in someone else's day. The disappointment you imagine settling into their face the moment they read your answer. And think about the heaviest version of this. The moment someone close to you becomes upset, and before you even know why, you're already asking yourself what you did. Not what happened, what you did, as if their emotional state and your behavior are, by default, the same event. If any of that sounds less like sensitivity and more like a job description, you're closer to the truth than most people ever get to. Psychologists describe parts of this as emotional overfunctioning. When you start treating someone else's feelings as something you're personally responsible for managing. In this video, we're going to call it the emotional thermostat, not an official diagnosis, just a working name for a role a lot of people learn to play so early and so thoroughly that they stop noticing they were playing it at all. Think about what that looks like day to day. Reading a face for half a second before you've even said hello, and adjusting your entrance based on what you find there. The specific relief when a room goes quiet and calm, a relief that isn't the same as enjoying the moment, because you're just relieved the monitoring can pause. And the strange guilt when someone else is disappointed about something you had nothing to do with, as if their letdown still landed on your desk. Picture a house where the thermostat isn't set by the person actually living in it. It's set by whoever's mood needs regulating that day. If the house is calm, it's calm because someone worked to keep it that way. If the temperature spikes, someone has to notice fast and adjust faster. Now, imagine a child growing up inside that house. That child doesn't just live in the temperature. Over enough time, they become the mechanism that monitors it, checking constantly, adjusting constantly, until they can no longer remember a version of themselves that wasn't doing this. They stop experiencing it as a task. They start experiencing it as who they are. Now, here's where most people get this wrong, and where I want you to actually slow down, because this is the part that changes how the rest of this lands. That kind of environment can form in different ways. Maybe warmth and affection only appeared when you were compliant, easy, and undemanding. Maybe conflict escalated quickly, so you learned to regulate the room before it could begin. Maybe a caregiver's mood could change without warning, making constant monitoring the safest way to stay prepared. That environment can form in more than one way. Sometimes this pattern takes a more specific form called parentification. When a child ends up managing an adult's emotional needs long before they're old enough to carry that responsibility, that's one version of this. Not the only one, just the most visible. A child can't leave a room the way an adult can. When the emotional weather at home is unpredictable, you can't just walk out and come back once it's calmer. So the nervous system does the next best thing. It learns to predict the weather instead. That doesn't mean the house was abusive. It just means a child adapted to whatever climate was actually there. Think about the last time someone close to you got quiet, or tense, or distant. Did you find yourself scanning for what you might have done wrong before you even knew whether you'd actually done anything at all? If that question landed with any recognition, here's why. The psychologist John Bowlby spent decades studying how children develop attachment strategies based on how consistently caregivers respond to their emotional needs. When a caregiver's emotional availability is inconsistent, children can become highly alert to changes in that person's mood. Because those changes may once have predicted whether comfort or distance was coming next, Murray Bowen, working in family systems theory, describes something he called emotional fusion. When one person's emotional state becomes so entangled with another's that the line between your feelings and my responsibility for your feelings starts to disappear. Bowen noticed this pattern showing up across generations inside families, passed down less through explicit teaching and more through simple, repeated exposure. Neither Bowlby nor Bowen were describing something limited to one kind of family. These patterns can exist on a spectrum from barely noticeable to deeply defining. And that adaptation doesn't stay behind in the house it was built in. It gets carried into every room afterward. A partner goes quiet for a reason that has nothing to do with you, and you're already running through what you might have done. A friend replies a little differently, and you're rereading the last few messages for the moment it changed. Someone you love is upset about something entirely separate from you. And the question that arrives first is simply, what did I do? Now here's the part worth sitting inside, rather than rushing past. The guilt you feel after saying no to someone isn't proof that you're selfish or unkind or failing some basic obligation to the people you care about. It's the thermostat still doing its job, still scanning, still adjusting, still bracing for a temperature spike that, in this particular moment, may not even be coming. That guilt isn't evidence against you. It's evidence of a system that was trained to respond to instability, now firing in a room that might actually be stable. The system isn't broken, it's responding to information it learned a long time ago. Those two sentences get confused for a reason. As a child, caring about someone and being useful to their mood were often the same transaction. Comfort came when you managed things well. Distance came when you didn't. So the two ideas fused together early, long before you had the language to tell them apart. So here's the motto, stated as plainly as I can put it. When love or safety once depended on managing someone else's emotions, the brain can mistake emotional responsibility for emotional connection. Somewhere along the way, I care about you quietly turned into I am in charge of how you feel. And those two things, despite feeling identical from the inside, are not remotely the same thing. And here's why that distinction matters more than it might seem to on the surface. If emotional responsibility and emotional connection are the same thing, then the only way to prove you care is to keep managing. But if they're actually separate, if you can care deeply about someone's well-being without being the mechanism responsible for regulating it, then an entirely different kind of relationship becomes available. One where you're present with someone's feelings instead of on duty for them. That shift doesn't announce itself. It shows up in smaller ways. Letting a friend's bad day just be a bad day instead of a problem assigned to you. Sitting across from someone who's upset and staying there instead of reaching for the thing that will fix it. None of that erases the reflex. It just means the reflex stops being the only option available. You became the thermostat in rooms that were never yours to regulate. Caring about someone's emotions is not the same as being responsible for them. Somewhere along the way, that role became confused with identity, but it was a skill you developed under specific conditions that may no longer be the ones you're living in now. That reframes the question worth asking yourself. Not, why do I feel so responsible for everyone? A question that quietly assumes this is simply who you are. Instead, whose emotional temperature did I learn to monitor first, and is regulating it still actually my job in this room with this person today? And that question opens into something bigger. If you've spent years, maybe your entire life, carrying other people's emotional states as if they were yours to manage what happens to your own identity while all of that carrying is going on, what's actually left of you underneath the constant monitoring? Once nobody needs the temperature adjusted anymore? That's not a small question. That's the next route this thermostat has been quietly avoiding. And it's exactly where we're headed next. If any of this landed somewhere real, tell me this. Whose emotional temperature did you learn to monitor first? And do you still feel like it's your job today?